Hello, Betty Croswick here. I'm talking today about a book by a neuroscientist who that was published in 2009 and who wrote a very interesting and far-reaching book, at least in medical circles, and called "The Master and the Emissary." And in this book, Dr. Ian Gilchrist tries to acquaint us with the structure of the brain and how humans have used their brains up until today. There's been a breakdown on today. Uh, but he points out that, of course, as many know, we have divided brains. We have a right brain and a left brain. And however, while these two different sides communicate with each other constantly through the callosium, cerebrium, and but nevertheless, they are not the same. They are asymmetrical, and they seem to have evolved for different purposes. The left side of the brain tends to isolate bits of information and concentrate on them in isolation, where the right brain tends to look at any entity as a whole, as being connected. And so there's been a constant back and forth going on between these two different sides of the brain from kind of time immemorial, or it seems to be in the evolution of the brain, that the two sides, he believes, Dr. McMill that that the two sides actually, aside from communicating, are now in these last however many years is breaking down because the master and the emissary are quarreling. Now, the master is the right brain, who tends to look at things as a whole. The emissary is the left brain, who wants to isolate things in order to study them in just how they are presented in the universe and not see connections. So this is the master and the emissary. And according to Dr. McNeil Christ, in the beginning, or for a long, long period of human history, it worked well. It worked very well because the master, by looking at the whole, and the emissary, by looking at parts, work together. I mean, the left brain would look at something that it ascertained that it needed, or at least really wanted, and submit this request to the master. And the master would say, well, okay, let's look at it. How does it fit in with the whole structure we got going here? Because we don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize the workings of the brain as a whole. So to illustrate this, McMill Christ used a bird sitting on a tree, and he sees what he recognizes as a bit of grain on the ground below the tree, and he wants to eat it. He's hungry. So he advises the master, the right brain, that he's hungry, and there's a piece of, I'm paraphrasing here, but this is how McNeil Christ described it in essence, is that the right brain said, okay, the master said, okay, well, let's look at as a whole. Are there any predators about? Are there any other birds that are also seeing this bit of grain and gonna fight with you over it? Or are there any female birds of your species ran that could possibly be a mating issue? Where you don't keep your mind on the grain of food. And words to that effect. And the master says, the right brain says, okay, it looks good to go. You can have the grain. So the bird flies down. This is the way the right and left brain talk to each other, but it's changing and has changed over since the I believe, and I think Dr. McNeil Christ mentions this later in the book too. I have to reread this entire book, which is small, no small endeavor. Anyway, no, but the book is very readable, and you get his gift just right away and want to read it. But he does get into medical journalism, where he uses a lot of medical terminology later in the book. However, the thesis of the book is clear. McNeil Christ is seeing that the left brain, the emissary, is no longer reporting back to the right brain about what they are, what the emissary is thinking or doing. He's kind of keeping things to himself and doing what he pleases. So this is causing a lot of trouble in the world today. So how this actually has being played out in real time is extremely interesting. So I'm going to leave it there. And the next time I post, I will talk about in the ways in which the age-old struggle or cooperation that had existed between the right and left brain is being hijacked. So it's extremely interesting. And I will act as emissary to anybody who's interested in this, who will be the master. Tell me if this is a rotten idea to go through this now at this time, or a good idea. But I think it should be done. I'm going to dwell on it for a while. So I thank you. Next time.